Hey guys, it is me, Hailey, and I've been pushing off doing a YouTube video for about a year now, and it's because I've been overthinking, and I'm silly. I'm a silly little girl sometimes, and I really wanted to do an introduction for my first YouTube video because of the fact that I've never really introduced myself on social media. People know of my story based on snippets that I've told, and they know of me, again, just based on like videos where I tell it in the moment, but I've never sat down and been like, hey, I'm Hailey and this is who I am. And something that has been asked a lot of me is to share more of my story, but truthfully I've been just scared because on TikTok and Instagram and things like that, like it just doesn't feel like the vibe for it. And I feel like YouTube and sitting down and just speaking with you guys and telling my story in a very condensed but full way is just the best way for me to do it. I do want to stop here though before I go any further and just say that my story is, in my opinion, a beautiful one. It gave me, right? Like I would not be the woman I am today if it was not for my story. However, there's a lot that goes into it that can be traumatizing to others. So if you have any traumas or anything, trigger warning related to abuse from parents, abuse from others in all forms, emotionally, physically, sexually. If you need a trigger warning for SI attempt, for ED, I feel like I should just be like all attempts, even attempted murder. I really just like literally trigger warning for everything, and I know that sounds dramatic, but I just want to like cover all my bases. So if you're not in a good place mentally, please just don't watch this. And if you're not used to this kind of testimonial, then I hope that I do not bring any dimness to your day, because I promise I'm good. And as you guys know who follow me, like I've really grown and I am so proud of where I came from, but this can get really heavy on some people. I talk about it so lightly because it's normal for me, but something I've realized is that to others this is not normal. So with that being said, hi, my name is Hailey and this is my story. I truly believe that my story begins before I was even born. My biological mom and dad were step siblings, but not by blood, okay? They were a product of a marriage. So my grandmother and my grandfather both had first marriages. They got divorced. They brought 6 kids on one side, 5 on another into a household with a mix of different sexes. And I'm sure it wasn't just my mom and dad who had some fun. So when they got married, my mom and dad met. And my mom ended up having her first kid when she was 13. And then she got pregnant with me. I don't know if she knew she was pregnant with me at the time, but I will say that my mom was not known for being very loyal to my biological father. So they had moved into a trailer across the way from my grandparents. And one day my dad came home and my mom was having sex with his best friend on the couch. And my dad, who has anger issues, decided the only way he could deal with this or cope with this was to try to kill her. He slit her throat, and luckily he didn't go deep enough because she was able to crawl outside. And this was a time in Tennessee, we don't really get much snow in Tennessee, but there was like a downpour of snow, like a random blizzard. And the doctors had told my mom, like, if it wasn't for the fact that it snowed, like you would be dead right now, because the snow like helped congeal and slow down the bleeding. So she had like crawled outside trying to get to my grandfather's trailer across the way. She didn't even make it, but like he had like looked out and saw her in the snow. And then she was taken to the hospital. Luckily I survived too. This was in December of 1997 and I was born in May of 1998. So luckily we're all good and I'm alive. But that's why I say like my story really did begin before I was born, because there was a lot of trauma in my family before I entered the world. So when I was born, my biological mom really tried. Like she tried to take care of us, but she was a child herself and she was traumatized. So she pretty much almost immediately gave both my sister and I up for adoption. And we got put into the foster care system for the first time in our lives. And this is where I kind of wonder like where life could have went if it didn't go this route. But my grandparents, who had gotten married, had decided that they were going to take us in And later I learned it's because a lot of people pressured them, like, you need to take those kids in, which wasn't the best choice because, you know, later in life they became very resentful that we took away their freedom and all of that. So they took us in, and truthfully, like, I clearly don't remember things when I was like 2, but like I remember most of my childhood being like rainbows and sunshines, and I was a girl that was like such a tom girl, just wanted to go outside and play. Like, I got my poppies, I call my grandfather Poppy. I took my Poppy's tool belt and literally took off the training wheels of my own bike. Like, I was like a little superhero. I was very skinny at that age too, and I just like was like an active little girl, just loved life. And then the rainbow started to come down a little bit because whenever I was 6, our grandmother's best friend's son would babysit us a lot. And I walked in one day and my sister and him were doing some stuff, and he basically was like, come join. And I was like, yeah, like I didn't know any better. And so he made me perform on him. And then before I knew it, it was like every time we babysat, like he babysat us, he was doing that. And at the time I was still rainbow and sunshine. Like, I had no idea that this was wrong because I lived in a household where like I was watching American Pie when it came out. I was watching Jigsaw. Like, we just didn't have any filters or didn't have any education on what's right and what's wrong. And so the lines were very blurred. So I legitimately thought like, this is just what people do. Like, this is playing. And it happened over the course of 2 years. And during those 2 years, he would bring in other boys in the neighborhood. And finally, though, he had to stay the night with us, and he was sleeping on our couch. And I'd woken up and I'd went out to the living room, and he was on the couch. And my aunt, who is the only biological child of my grandparents, so she was pretty young. She was in high school at the time. She was sleeping on the recliner. So she was sleeping on the recliner. She had birthday balloons up beside her. And then he was like, do it now. And again, I kind of knew at that point. I was like, but she's right there. I remember, I just remember, I kind of knew, at that point, it probably was wrong. Because he was like, you can't tell anyone, and all these things. And that started being like, huh. But I wasn't for sure. And so I did it. And she was awake the entire time. She didn't stop it. But she was awake and hearing everything. And then when she woke up, when we all woke up, she went and told my grandmother. And this is where you would expect things were done, charges were pressed, little girl saved, but unfortunately that's not the house I lived in. And so we had a meeting with both families where I was basically blamed for everything. And I was 8 or 9 at this point. And they were just like, Hailey's a whore, just like her mother. My grandmother just basically was like, this is all her fault. She's the problem. They didn't call the police. They said that I just could no longer go outside and play. That was the resolution. And that if the boy had ever saw me, that he was not to talk to me. Because that was the problem. And there was so much shame on that day that I started to realize the darkness around me. So I lived in a double wide trailer that we called Walmart because my grandparents got benefits for me and my sister, and so we always thought we were poor, but my grandmother would always buy the nicest KitchenAid and the nicest clothes from Cato, which back then I feel Cato was really popping. And she would just go buy bulk of everything at Sam's Club. And we had a room that literally was designated to all her stuff because her room was piled high to the ceiling. So everyone in the neighborhood called it Walmart because we just had everything. But I never had anything. She had it all. And we were also known as the drug dealers, because I unknowingly was going around the neighborhood giving people napkins. Here you go, taking cash. Or they'd be like, oh, already settled up. And I would just give them the napkin. And I did not know that I was doing that. I was participating. I was just doing what I was told when I was a kid. And so like things like that started adding up, and like I started going to school and like being made fun of because like as we grow older, people around us are a little bit more like observant, and so they're like, you smell, and like all these things. And I'm like, oh, like I don't take a shower every day, because we only had one shower and it was my grandmother's room. So like if she didn't want you to shower, if she was mad at you, like you just couldn't shower. And so like I just started to notice all these bad things, like, oh, people don't get beat on Thanksgiving. People don't like this isn't normal, because I legitimately just thought like everything was normal. And a huge reason for that is because I was like literally trained to think this life is not perfect, but it's better. Like my grandparents, again, had DCS and oh, I don't know if I told you that yet. My aunts and uncles got put in foster care all the time. And so it's no shocker that my grandparents were not giving me the best life. But because of their experience with DCS the first time with their own children, they kind of like got trained real quick. So like I knew how to tell them, no, my parents don't smoke anything outside of a cigarette, because they'd be like, oh, well, describe like what they're smoking. And like I knew like what a crack pipe looked like. I knew what a joint looked like. I knew they're snorting certain things, but like I knew I wasn't supposed to say anything like that. I knew I was supposed to just say, oh, a cigarette, he likes Marlboros or Winston's, and they're gonna be a little yellow end and a long white stick. Like I knew like what to say, what not to say, because they made us fear that like life, if we got taken, would be so much worse. Like I remember one time my grandmother was like, if you think life is bad now, like you'll get raped with a toothbrush if you get put in foster care. So like I was so fearful of the unknown. And so because of that, I just never told the truth. And I just continued to live in this life of drug addicts and drug dealers and abuse. Honestly, like, it was crazy to say this, but like I feel like the emotional abuse like hurt me more as a kid than the physical abuse, because like I have so many scars on me that I can't tell you what time I got it. Like I don't know. Sorry. Sometimes I wish I knew. Like sometimes I wish I didn't suppress so much. And I like, even like now when I'm in therapy, I'm like, oh, like I didn't remember this, but here's another memory. And I'm not like going into detail just because like I feel like the stretch of like being abused and like seeing life isn't rainbow and sunshine and going out and play to now, like to like when I got put in foster care is like such like the same. Like every year it was just abuse, and it was just, I'm the problem, it's me. Like I was always made to feel so small, because they didn't want me to feel big, because they didn't want me to speak out. So DCS was in and out of my life, and I just always lied because I was always scared. And also like part of me, and my sister and I had talked about this, like we felt guilty because of the fact that they were like, you took away our life, and we knew what they were doing was wrong. Like the older I got, like the more I realized like you can get in trouble for this, like you were doing something wrong, not me. And so the older I got, the more I realized, but I also was like, I don't want to tell the truth and get them sent to prison, because while they really were horrible people, like I didn't want to hurt them that bad, like they hurt me. So the first time me and my sister tried to get put into foster care, we were like, what can we talk about? What can we tell them that like won't get them in prison or in trouble? And we were like, there's nothing, like literally nothing. So my sister was like, I'm just gonna tell them they don't feed us. And at the time, the only thing me and my sister had was food, because we were on food stamps. Like we couldn't go outside and play. We were grounded from church, like if we did anything wrong, like all these different things. And so like we emotionally ate all the time. And like my grandparents were also somebody who like kind of used food as a weapon. Like they would tell us we couldn't have anything, or they would tell us we had to finish 2 plates, and it would be like big portions. So it just like was a very unhealthy thing. And so me and my sister, like we would stay up until like 2 a.m. and we would crawl on the floor, because my grandmother's room out like saw the hallway in the trailer. So like if you walked she could see you, but if you crawled she couldn't. And so we would crawl on the floor so that way we could get to the kitchen, and we would steal a bunch of food and then come back, and we would like make weird concoctions in our room and like just like try to make the most of it, right? But I will say the one thing, but yeah, sorry, that just, like, as silly as it sounds, it was it's a good memory. And I know to some people that wouldn't sound like a good memory, but, like, in the world of chaos, like, those things that you do to survive, like, sometimes they're like, oh, that was kind of like a sweet memory with my sister. But she was like, we're gonna tell them that they don't feed us. And I think we were like, I weigh less now than when I did in 6th grade, and I'm 200 pounds right now. So we were not small girls. And I think they were immediately like, what? Like, okay. And so, like, we weren't taken. And at that time, my sister was like, I'm done trying then. Like, I'm not ever going to tell the truth. Like, there's no reason. And I was like, okay, like, I'm with you, sis, kind of thing. But as time continued, the hatefulness and the abuse just continued to get worse. And I also, as I aged, just started noticing more. And I kind of became more of like a rebel, and I didn't want to put up with it all as much. But I also was like, keep your nose down, do well in school, and like get out, because school was my safe zone and I was always a straight A student. So I just like continued to try to just get out and go to college and just be able to survive. And my grandmother knew that, though. Like, she knew I wanted to get out so bad. And so the final straw for me was one day I think this is one of the stupidest things that a parent can do, and I hate that they had the right to do this, but I don't know if it's in every state, but in Tennessee, a parent can file unruly charges against their own kid. And I think it's like a way to like have a safety mechanism for parents in case their kid is being so unruly. But I think you should have to provide evidence, because my grandmother was like, you have to start stealing, you need to do this, this, and this, because my sister had gotten caught at Walmart. And like, I was just like, no. And then like, we got in a huge fight, and I was bawling. And I never usually like would stick up for myself. Like, I would just take the paddle that had holes and freaking switches against me, and I just never cared. But that day I was just like so fed up, and I was just like, why do you hate me? Like, I was like, well, I was screaming at the top of my lungs, I'm gonna be honest. And she spit in my face and told me because I looked like my mom. And at that point I was like so defeated, because like, I didn't ask for that, you know, like it's not like I chose who birthed me. And I was just kind of like, wow. And so to give a little bit more clarity on that, my mom is my grandfather's daughter. My dad is my grandmother's son. So my grandmother blames my mom for getting her son in prison. And this is also a guy who got out of prison when I was a kid, beat the living crap out of me because I wore my aunt's jean skirt and danced to Britney Spears, and he said, you're a whore, and beat me, and never thought I was his kid. Like, got sent back to prison for huffing paint and doing all this shit and like wrecking his car, yet like my biological mom was the problem. And so like, I was just sitting there like, I can never win. Like, I will never win with you. And I just remember like bawling my eyes out, and I just like ran to my room, and I snuck out of that window, and I didn't go far. I literally went to the cul-de-sac, because our trailer was at the end of the cul-de-sac, and we had this big rock in the middle. And I remember just like laying beside that rock and looking up and just screaming at the sky like, God, why do you hate me? Like, why am I given this life? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, what is happening? And I just remember feeling so defeated. And when I went back in, my grandmother came into the room. They had taken off our door, so we didn't have a door, but that was a while before. I don't even remember why they took the door. They just like to be in control. And by they, I mean my grandmother. Honestly, my grandmother was 99% of the problem in my home. She was just like, I'm gonna go to the courthouse and I'm gonna file unruly charges against you, and you'll never get into college. And I was 14 at the time. And I did not realize that that's BS. Like, you can file unruly charges against me, but that's not going to go on my record to college. Like, I had no idea. So I took her as, she's ruining my life. I really have no other option. And in a drug den where I could have literally got my hands on meth, Oxy, Roxy, Hydros, like all the pain pills, because my grandmother had all of them, was selling all of them. I could have gotten my hands on so many things. I decided to take a bottle of water pills. And at the time, like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I often tell people, like, I wasn't trying to kill myself, I was just really seeking attention. But I remember taking the pills and literally, like, thinking in my mind, like, God, like, if this is the life I'm gonna have, like, if I'm not gonna get out of this, then let me die. Like, let me die, because I don't want this. And I didn't want to have that future for myself. And so I took the water pills. And I did not know at the time that water pills, while they make you pee, they also pull your potassium with you. And so my potassium was like nothing. And so I started getting really lightheaded. I started feeling ill. And I went to my grandfather and I was like, I did something stupid, Poppy. And he was like, why'd you do this? And I just remember just like getting more and more dizzy. And like I couldn't, like, things just didn't look right. And then the ambulance showed up. And I just remember them trying to talk to me. And they were like, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes open. And I couldn't keep my eyes open. And I remember hearing the guy like hit the top, like, you need to put the lights on, we need to go. And then I wake up puking. And I almost died, and I am so happy I woke up, because if little Hailey could see the life I'm living now, like, it's not the life that I was so scared of. It's like so much better. And I just, at that time, I really didn't know that this was possible for me. So when I woke up, I was at the Children's Hospital in Knoxville, and I learned that I was gonna have to go to a psych ward after I finished my hospital stay. And I think I stayed in the hospital for like 2 or 3 days. And during those couple days, like, so many people came to talk to me. And I just, like, this is why I used to do foster care work, because there was so much conversation. Why did you do this? Like, and I was like, doctors, the clinical pharmacist, like, not the pharmacist, but the clinical, like, psychologist who's like comes in, like, when kids try to commit suicide, like, everybody was like, why'd you do this? Not one person was like, sweet girl, like, what has happened to you to make you not want to live? Like, everybody, it was like such a blaming thing. And I just remember being like, I don't want to talk, I don't want to do anything. Like, I just, like, couldn't make up my mind on, like, am I going to tell the truth, am I not going to tell the truth? Like, I just didn't know. And so once I got released, I got put in handcuffs in the back of a freaking cop car, and got sent to the mental hospital. And the cop was like, I hope you never do this again. Like, I don't know what's going on. He was like, but, like, you deserve to live. And that was probably the sweetest thing that anybody told me. And he was like, I wish I didn't have to do the handcuffs, but it's policy, and, like, all this stuff. Because I remember, like, being like, no, like, please don't do this. And so when I get to the hospital, it's literally a psych ward. And so I'm sitting there just so scared, and it's like late at night. Nobody's, like, being nice. And then the next, I have to, like, sleep in this room with this person. I get stripped and all the fun stuff. And the next morning I get evaled by both the therapist and the doctor. And the doctor, first thing he said was like something about, like, which parent do you want me to call? And I was like, please don't call my grandmother. Like, she's a big problem for me. Like, just call my Poppy. Just call my Poppy. And he said he called my Poppy's number, but my grandmother answered. And she was on the speaker phone. Like, we were in the same room. And she was just like, her father's bipolar, he has anger management issues, like, this is what's wrong with her, like, XYZ. And literally he took what she said and ran with it. And he prescribed me these, like, they're actually anti-seizure drugs, I can't remember the name of it, and was like, you're gonna start taking these, I think this is your problem. And so I left that room, like, being like, oh, I'm the problem. Like, I'm the reason I think that this is wrong. Like, these people are not treating me any bad. Like, I'm the problem. So, like, I went from being like, abuse isn't normal, these things shouldn't have happened to me, to, oh, I'm doing all of this because my head's not right. And, like, it was so hard for me. And I just remember leaving there and being like, my Poppy picked me up and I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm the problem, and, like, I'm never gonna do it again. And, like, I get home, and what goes on, of course, like nothing from them changes. It's, again, I'm the problem. So at the time, right before I had decided to do this, I was already seeing like a therapist at school, and I would never talk to him. Like, I would never open up. Like, I never told him anything. Like, I was just like, this isn't, like, I would always be like, something happened to me when I was young, and then I just realized life sucked. And I was talking about the soul, and like, I just never wanted to tell the truth. I never wanted to talk about anything, because again, like, I just never wanted to get them in trouble. Like, I wanted to save myself without hurting them. And when I got home, I was trying to put the blame all on me, and I saw him at school, and he was like, Hailey, why'd you do this? Like, we were talking, like, you hadn't told me anything. Like, I had no idea. Like, I just, like, he was like, I'm so sorry. Like, he was just trying to figure out the cause, and I just wouldn't talk. So then I had my like follow-up appointment for my medication, and I was like crying to the guy, because I was like, these aren't fixing me. Like, I think, like, they say that this is what's wrong with me, but these aren't fixing me. Like, my brain is still thinking these things and thinking like I'm not the problem and I need it to stop. And so he just tripled my dose. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is perfect. And after that, I just remember one day hearing like, you need to tell the truth. And I'm not really that religious anymore. Like, I'm not going to tell you guys I go to church and I practice like a certain religion. Like, I know there's something out there, because I don't think a 14-year-old would think in their head, like, tell the truth, write a letter to the Department of Children's Services. Like, I truly believe that whatever's out there, like, spoke to me in my own voice and just like gave me this idea, because that's the only way I was going to survive. And so we, despite living in a trailer full of cockroaches and mice, had a fucking math book, and me and my sister would stay up late at night and like get on there. Sometimes we would do inappropriate stuff, like, Lord. But anyways, I got on there and I wrote an email, because when I saw the therapist, he was like, here's my card, like, please don't ever do that, like, please call me if you feel that way, whatever. And I had his email, and I just wrote my story. I wrote everything, and I'm still an expressive writer, and so like, I don't even remember what that said. I wish I could get my hands on that letter, just because I would love to be able to say like what 14-year-old Hailey said. But I just wrote everything that's happened to me, and I was brutal and I was honest, and I was just like, they don't care, like, this is what's going on. And I will say DCS was sly, because I sent that letter to him and he immediately sent it to DCS. He's mandatory reporter. I knew that would happen. And we have to go in for a meeting, a family meeting, and they're saying, because we were being investigated at the time, and they're the ones that gave me the therapy. Like, I had to go to therapy because of DCS, because of the reports and allegations of abuse. And so I had to go to therapy, and because I had attempted the suicide, they were like, we have to have a family meeting to go over Hailey's suicide attempt. So they went in, like, my grandparents went in so nonchalant, like, oh, this is just about Hailey once again, you know. And they pulled me and my sister and put us in different rooms, and then they put my grandparents in another room, and they've never done that with meetings before, ever. And they pull out my letter, and they're like, tell us about this. And I was just like, what do you want to know? Like, everything's in the letter. They're like, can you tell us what's in the letter again? I guess just trying to confirm. And they read the same, they like pulled it out for my sister as well. And my biological sister, thank the Lord, did not deny any of it, even though like our plan was to deny until we die. She did not deny any of it. And my grandparents, when asked about my abuse, my grandmother told them I deserved it. When they asked about hitting us, about the verbal, about all of that, they did not deny any of it. The only thing that they denied ever doing was drugs. They were like, oh yeah, all the abuse, all that stuff, we did that. The drugs, no, we didn't do that. We didn't do that. Both of them failed their drug screens. Granted, my grandmother was prescribed. So yeah, failed her pill count. Like, it just blows my mind. So me and my sister got put into foster care of June 2012, and that's whenever I kind of got put in another hell. Foster care was not a fun time. Sorry, I had to take a little bit of a break. But when I got put in foster care, the girl who put us in care was my first ever DCS worker. And I remember when she sat us down, she just looked at me and she started crying and she was like, I'm so sorry I didn't take you then. I knew I should have, but I just didn't have enough evidence. And I truly believe till this day, like, I was meant to go through all that. Like, I don't know what woman I'd be today if it wasn't for that. And like, I love myself so much. I'm so proud of me today that like, I wouldn't want to risk it. And so and I told her then, I was like, don't feel bad. Like, I'm gonna live now. Like, don't feel bad. So after that, we start getting questioned because they want to know more about us, our behaviors, things like that. So my biological sister was so smart though, because when they started asking us questions, she kept her mouth shut. And she was like, no, I've never drank. No, I've never smoked weed. Even though when she got caught for stealing at Walmart and was on probation, she had marijuana in her system. She was like, nope, nope, nope. And I was honest little girl. And I was like, yes, I've tried weed a couple times. Yes, I've drank alcohol a couple times. So I had to go to drug and alcohol classes. And because of my recent suicide attempt, I had to go to a group home. So we got separated, and like, I was bawling my eyes out, and they were like, it's just gonna be for a little bit. It's just gonna be for a little bit. So for 3 months, I went to Smoky Mountain Children's Home in Sevierville, Tennessee, and I actually really loved Smoky Mountain's Children's Home. We got to do so much. I think that was probably one of my first ever, like, I mean, it was my first foster care experience, but like, I think it was like my most favorite, just because like, while we didn't have freedoms, like you couldn't go and like hang out with people, like you just got to do so much. Like, we'd go to Dollywood, we'd get presents, we got fed, like I had what I needed, and I appreciated that. But I also just wanted to get to my sister. And this is where a second heartbreak kind of happens for me, because I was working so hard to improve myself and to fix things that I needed to fix, and I was in court-ordered trauma therapy, and I was doing all this work, and come to find out that while I was doing all this work, she was put in a foster home that was letting her live her own life. She was a smoker at the time, so they were buying her cigarettes, letting her do whatever, stay out to whatever. And because of that, she was in a lot of contact with my biological family, because they like gave her back her phone. And so my biological sister, I was 14 when all the suicide things happened. I turned 15, like my birthday's May 27th, so I turned 15 right after. So we had the meeting right after I turned 15. So my biological sister was 16 when we got put in foster care, but by the time all this was happening, she was literally about to be, or she was 17. Like, she basically had a year just to stick it out with me. And she just didn't want to do that. And in foster care, like, they're kind of weird about like one child going back to the family, but not both. And so my biological aunt, who at the time was 21, maybe I think she was 21, because she was like the lowest legal age, and I think it's 21. I keep saying her name. Sorry if this is like snippets, because I do want to honor my biological sister and not say her name. And so I'm trying, when I catch myself, to like stop and like re-record it. So if it's like choppy, I'm so sorry. So my biological aunt was like, I'll take my biological sister, but not me. And they were like, we don't know about this. And Katie, my DCS worker, and my sister were talking, and like, she was very honest with her, like, hey, like, we don't typically like to do that, and like, yada yada, like, we want to reunite you and Hailey. And so like, I don't know how my biological sister knew, like, if there was a safety concern, she would easily get pulled away. And so whenever I finally got out of the group home and I moved into this home with them, and I hated those foster parents, like, they gave me the creeps, like the creeps. But I was like, I'm just gonna do it, I'm gonna stick it out. Whenever I got put with them, almost immediately, my biological sister told DCS that I was abusing her. And one thing that me and my sister had happen when we were a kid is that she would beat the living out of me, because my grandparents told us to. Like, if there was ever a small discourse, they'd be like, punch her in the face, like, like I had multiple black eyes going to school. Like we would be on top of each other, like pinning each other down, and I would never hit her back until as I got older I was like, screw this, I'm doing it. Like I'm not letting you beat up on me anymore. So then I started winning. And so like they knew, like my grandparents pinned us against each other for entertainment and they'd make us fight. And so like I don't think it was like a far-fetched thing, you know, like they believed it. And my biological sister just was thinking about herself and she just wanted to get out. But because of that, I was put in a different level of care. So like I was a level 1 good kid, and that put me as a level 2, which is like harder. So think about being a foster care kid at 15. Now you're like labeled as like a hard, like anger issues, all this stuff, level 2. And it just really sucked. And later my biological sister told my DCS worker, like I lied just because I wanted to get home. And my DCS worker told me that she told her like that was really screwed up because like we can't undo that. And like she's like lived like a harder life because of it, because like every foster home I went in after that, like it was just like hell. And like nobody would believe me because like I had a foster home where the woman was trying to commit suicide, and like her and her husband were like fighting every day. And like I had tonsillitis, and they were like, throw out your toothbrush, but they were like, we're not gonna buy you another toothbrush, don't throw it out. And like there was just like things like I was not being taken care of, and I would like tell my DCS worker, but nobody wanted to believe me because of the fact that like I was labeled as like an unruly kid. And so like her making that decision for her really impacted me, and that hurt me because like she was supposed to be my big sister, she was supposed to take care of me. And so like that really just like hurt my soul because like it was always us against the world, and then it just like felt like a very lonely world. So at the time I had the court order therapy, and luckily I had a therapist that was basically just like, I've watched time and time again these crazy foster parents take you in and they're not doing you any good. And I kept telling myself she needs both a mother and a father, but like after seeing how they are doing and how they're treating you, like I know I can do a better job even though I don't have a husband. So would you want to come live with me if I become a foster parent? And I just remember bawling, and I was like, oh my gosh, because she was my safe space. Like she was like my therapist, and I was just like, yes, please, yes. And honestly it was, I moved in with her when I turned 16. So in 1 year I went to like 5 different homes, went to 4 different high schools or something crazy my sophomore year. And then I moved in with her right when I turned 16, the summer of 2013. And so I was just so happy and I was ecstatic, and I kind of grew attached really quick. And I was just kind of like, I think by Christmas I was like, can I call you mom? And like I started calling her mom. And then we talked about, do we want to like get adopted, like do I want to be adopted? And I decided legally I don't want to be adopted, but like we can change my name, like that's the same thing, plus like it'll be good for my safety to not be known. They found out quick. But it's okay. I really did think that that place was amazing, and it was rainbows and just sunshine, but it was kind of that Cinderella effect of, this is the best I've ever had. And there was a lot of hurt in that relationship too. Like I paid for everything on my own, and like that's fine, not saying it's not. It just, when someone's getting paid for you and you're paying for like your own graduation stuff, your own prom dress, you're walking like 2 miles to go to work, and you're like finding rides to get home at 1 a.m. from work and things like that, like it does become like a like where's this money going? And like when you get told later that like you put her in debt by her taking you in, but you're like, you're getting paid for me every month, like, and you didn't spend much money on me, like where is this going? So there was like just a lot. And I mean, I take my own part, and I was 16. I mean, I couldn't imagine being a 40-something-year-old taking in a 16-year-old. Like I think that like I needed her in my life at that time, and I'm so thankful for the stability that she gave me. But in the same notion, to be my therapist, I think she kind of like targeted some of my insecurities, which I wasn't a fan of, because I had sex for the first time when I lived with her, and I like freaked out like any I freaked out like any first time first time, you know, girl does. And I like didn't track my period at the time, so I was like, am I pregnant? And like she then gave me a huge talking to where she was like, if you continue this behavior, she like wrote me, like this woman wrote me a letter because I told her I have sex for the first time. And this is the first time since my trauma, and she knew that. And it was a stupid decision. I was a teenager. Like I like acted out sexually completely because of my trauma in my past, but like I just had never had the opportunity to act on it. And like I acted on it, and I didn't track my period, and I was freaking out because I thought I was pregnant, just like every girl does her first time. And what do? You go to your mom. And I just like went to my mom thinking it would be a safe space, and in return she walked away. And then I get a handwritten letter that says like, if you continue this behavior, you'll only be known as Hailey the whore, not Hailey the doctor or Hailey like the smart girl. Like you're only going to be known as Hailey the whore. And told that I need to write a 5-page essay on human sex trafficking and like behavior and all this stuff. I never wrote that damn essay. I like was like, not happening. Like I was like, what the hell? And so like that's what I mean, like Cinderella effect of like I wasn't getting beaten every day, but like there was definitely some emotional like manipulation, and like so many people saw it in my high school, like my teachers, and like even my DCS worker was like, you were just so happy. I never wanted to say anything, but like when they had heard, like when I went to college, she was basically like, I don't want you to come home. Like they were like, we're not surprised. So yeah, so I graduated high school living with her, and I got a really great scholarship to Belmont University where I basically had a full ride, and I had outside scholarships, so I did have a full ride. And she was not happy with that decision. She wanted me to go to UT, which doesn't make sense because she did not like me, so I don't know why she wanted me to be closer. I don't know. I wish I could have some of the answers to life, like in these like hypothetical things that like I ask myself, and like I'll talk to my therapist about. I'll be like, why, like what was that reasoning? And it's like I'll never know, and I just have to be okay with never knowing. But yeah, so I after that went to college, chose Belmont because I wanted to be the furthest away I could be. And like I had really dreamed of going to Boston University, but I just knew financially it wasn't the best decision for me. So I went to Belmont, and I was very lucky. Like I literally applied to 6 different colleges and got full rides at every single one. Like I was just, I'm so thankful that I had that opportunity. So went to Belmont, and after my first semester came home for Thanksgiving, and we got in some fights over like stupid stuff. Like she was like, I want you to pay bills when you like, or she was like, Thanksgiving, I don't even remember what the fight was about, but I remember we had a fight at Thanksgiving. Then Christmas, I come home and she's like, I don't think, like, Thanksgiving? Okay, yeah. So Thanksgiving, we fought about me coming home for the summer, because she was like, are you gonna come home for the summer? Are you not? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that if you come home for the summer, you should pay some bills. And I remember being like, excuse me, like, you want me to pay bills? Like, I'm in college. What do you mean? Like, I don't have a job, like a job. Like, how am I gonna pay bills? Like, I'm working at Subway, girl. And I just went to Belmont for, like, where everybody's rich. I've spent a lot of my savings. Like, I was like, what? And then when I came home for Christmas, I remember being like, okay, fine, like, I'll pay the damn bill. Like, because Nashville, I could not stay in Nashville. It was not feasible in terms of how much it cost. So I was like, fine, I'll pay the bill. And she was like, no, I think we need time apart. And I'm like, I literally am in Nashville for school. You're in Knoxville. Like, what do you mean we need time apart? And then, like, we just never talked. This is why I'm like, everything happens for a reason, because I met a family because of her, who always just treated me with such love and kindness. And I was like babysitting their kids who probably didn't even need to be babysat, and like tutoring them. And I like grew really, really close to their daughter, and their daughter did not like the therapist mom. Like, she did not like her. She was like, she treats you so weird. And at the time I was like, no, she doesn't. Like, I was so defensive of her. And looking back, I'm like, this girl who was in middle school knew and you didn't. And so when it all happened, like, we still talked when I was in college and stuff. And so something was going on. I don't know why she called me. I don't know what happened, but basically like we were on the phone and I was like hyperventilating, and I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna go. I'm about to sign a contract to go to Clearwater Beach, Florida, because they're gonna give room and board and food for the summer, but I have to go on the beach and tell everybody about the good Lord Jesus Christ, and like I kind of feel like a hypocrite because I don't really know if I believe in that. And I was like, I mean, I know there's something out there, but like for me to be so confident and be like, hey, here you go, while I was also dealing with all the trauma I was going through, to the point where I was like, why would God let that happen to me? Like, it just like was not the place that I know, like I knew in my heart that wasn't what I needed to do. And like I felt like such like an imposter. And she was just like, hold on. And she immediately told her mom what was going on. And her mom called me and she was like, would you want to come stay with us for the summer? Like, I'm gonna hang up, I want you to think about it, and then just let us know. And I went and stayed with them for a summer, which ended up being like a beautiful safe space for me too. And like I had went there for every Thanksgiving and Christmas throughout college, and like they sent me cute little care packages, which was very, very sweet. And then they always like were just like supportive of me, like they always just cared about me. But little Hailey inside really wanted them to be like mom and dad. Like I was kind of like with the therapist, it's like I was like immediately like, I want you to be my mom and dad, but like I didn't say that to them. But like I knew in my mind I wanted that. But I would also tell my mind, I'd be like, you can't look at this as your family. Like this isn't your family. This is what screwed up your relationship with her, is that you like rushed it. Because I put so much of the blame on me with the therapist, because I was like, I wanted to call her mom so quick, I don't think she was ready, and like all these things. And so I was like very much like I didn't want to let myself dive deep into it. And like the first couple holidays were so hard because like I was traumatized on holidays. Like holidays were the days that I was beat, and like Christmas as a kid for me were getting hand sanitizer and pants that didn't fit, and being told you need to lose weight to get into them. But I was like emotionally eating because like I didn't know what else to do. So like I just like did not love a holiday, and I'm working on that still. And so like I would just bawl my eyes out, especially because they have such a strong, beautiful family. So to see that and just don't feel like I'm here but I'm not a part of it was just hard for me. It was just hard. So the first couple years were a little rough, and then with more and more time, like I just felt more accepted, I just felt more loved, and like I just like allowed myself to realize they're not leaving. And I don't think they'll ever leave me, but like I will say the past year I very much realized that like they're not ever going to be my mom and dad. And they said that like the mom figure to me was like, we'll never be able to do that for you, like we can't be your mom and dad. And I think that actually like allowed me, because I'm gonna be honest, I've tried to have that conversation multiple times and very much avoided, because I would be like, what do you guys call me when you tell people about me? Like I just kind of like, as much as we don't like labels, like I needed a label, like my child in my head needed a label. And I knew deep down in my soul, like they were able to give me a lot, but they would never give me that. But like they just would never say it. And so finally this last Christmas, they finally said it. And it actually, I think, is going to help our relationship more than hurt it, because of the fact that I can look at this now as like, they're just here to help me in my life. They're here to love me. There's not a thing to call it, but it's not mom and dad. Like for me to be able to say it's not mom and dad, it's not brother and sister, but they're just people who love me. I don't know why, it just allows my like brain to be like, expectations lowered, you know? And so while it was a hard Christmas this past year, like I do feel a lot more stable in that relationship. I don't think I'll ever feel like I have a family until I create one of my own, which I don't know if I want to do. But yeah, I feel like I'm kind of jambering. But basically after college I moved to Dallas, and I hated myself for the first year, and then I learned to love myself, and I learned that I need to improve myself, and I shouldn't go to food for my comfort. And then I lost a lot of weight because I emotionally healed and didn't go to food for comfort, and like just moved my body, made my mind feel right. And every day it's just continuing to grow, and like if I find another trigger or trauma, I like learn and I grow and I try to heal myself, and I just continue to try to live, because I need to honor little Hailey, because I didn't think I'd live a great life, and I want to live a good one for her, because she deserves it, even though she never thought she did. So that was a lot, and if you stayed for the entire thing, I appreciate you. I've never sat down and like tried to verbalize it all in one go, so if you stayed for the entire thing, thank you. I love you. I hope you're doing well. And just know that like if you're ever in a dark place like I was, I'm always here for you. And I never want you to feel alone. And I will always be here. And if I could give you a real life hug right now, I would, if you're feeling as low as I used to. But I hope, if anything, if you're in that space, you can see that you can get out. And I know that, like, my story isn't the all-knowing healer, but I hope you can see, like, I came literally from nothing and no support, and I created a beautiful life for myself, and you can too. You just gotta keep choosing you. Just know that wherever you are in life, if you are feeling that low, that like the way I used to, I'm here for you, and I'm always gonna be here for you. But just know too that, like, you can get out of it, because I used to think I would never. I used to think I wasn't deserving of this life and that I would never be given to me. And now I'm sitting here in a beautiful apartment in Arizona and about to have my plastic surgery after losing so much weight. And then I'm going to move on to a new city and just travel nurse and live up the life and do things that little Hailey never thought I could do. So just know that it does get better. You just have to give yourself one more day, every day. So anyways, today I hope you're having a dang good day. I know I am.